You're done, time for a new one. I've been planning to post my story since last week, however something happened a few days ago that completely caught me off guard. I'll start with my story first before I get into the problem. I apologize for errors in advance. Several years of my life compressed after all. Some basic info. I'm a mix of black and Creole. She's a half as well, French and black. At the time I was 29 and out of college. She was 27. I worked a desk job at an IT company and she did temp work at lawyers' offices, accounting firms, etc. Where it all started. My family and I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana until 2005. I stayed in an apartment though since I have a really big extended family living there as well and needed space to study for my degree, which I got in the same year. We were forced out by Hurricane Katrina. Now we weren't hit by it directly, but some 100,000 or so refugees flooded the city. Housing costs went up, schools and teachers were overwhelmed, and with the high number of people who lost everything there was so much more crime. People were getting robbed and even shot and it wasn't some county miles away, like just a half-hour drive away. It was not safe for us anymore, so we decided to leave. My family chose to go to Florida, but there was a job available for me in Georgia though, so I decided to head there. Fast forward about a year or so. I'm settled in a new apartment, job is paying well, and I made a few friends. On July 2nd, my best friend Kevin told me about a yearly 4th of July barbecue in his backyard. Told me he knows how to work a grill and a lot of people show up so it's fun. Sounded fun to me too, so I went with Kevin and several friends. Played games, horsed around a bit with a football, and then started playing some spades. And that's when I met her. Just won a book and then she walked over to where we were playing and started talking to one of my friends. She was a coworker of his at his accounting firm. I was hit immediately. She's very tall, about 5 feet 11, which was perfect for me since I'm 6 feet 1. Nice tanned long legs and an athlete's body. Her face was very beautiful with long dark hair as well. I introduced myself and after the game ended, I gave someone else my spot so I could talk with her. Hit it off instantly. She liked sports, books, hell we shared almost every interest except for her love of fashion. I may have even liked that too since she was always looking good, whether when she went out or in a tank top and shorts at home. We go on a few dates and kiss and had a good time after the 4th one. It was amazing. We kept it up and then we're going out exclusively, or so I thought. Within 2 months, fast forward 1 year, cohabitating in my apartment. Fast forward another year and I popped the question and she accepted. Set to be man and wife in 8 months. Life was bliss. I've been doing overtime for more than a year and my parents giving me $40,000 to help. I was finally able to afford a house. She was so excited about raising a family together with me and I couldn't have been more excited. Taking out furniture, forwarding addresses, the works. She even called herself Mrs. my last name, which was really endearing to me. I was so complacent. I thought I had the world all figured, that life's secrets were no secret to me. I had all I wanted in the world. How little I knew in my naivete. I had to mail a check, so I asked her if she had any stamps since I was out. She said she had some in the glove box of her car. I go outside and I'm just about to open her car door when she opens the door and yells for me to stop, that she had some in her purse. I thought it odd at the time, but I didn't dwell on it, considering how in love I was. Day goes on and we go to bed in our new house. She gets up in the middle of the night though and goes to her car, waking me up in the process. I went to the window thinking she was leaving, but she was just in a robe, so I thought she must have forgotten something in there. I was about to go back to bed, and then see a flash. So, I'm like, what is that? The car was directly under the window and I saw that the flash was squarish rectangle shaped, so I figure it's her phone. Then I look back on the nightstand and see her BlackBerry sitting there. Then it hit me, she has a second cell phone. I also remember how she burst out of the house before I could open her car door. Something in me turns cold, but I couldn't believe it without proof, so I sat back in bed on my back. She came back and then lied down next to me. For the next 2 hours, it is impossible for me to sleep on my back. I sat there awake making sure she was asleep. Then I crept out of bed, grabbed her keys and went out to the car. She has a small flashlight on her key ring, so I got in easy enough. Opened the glove box, found the track phone. I start going through, see a crap load of calls to T on the contact list and no one else. I also see a Hotmail in there that I don't recognize since we both use Gmail or Yahoo. I knew I needed to get in there. I remember that she doesn't use different passwords for emails or websites. They're all the same, so I coax her Gmail out of her under the pretense that I want to check to see if her laptop can open document attachments from my laptop. Got the password, used it on the Hotmail account. What I found scarred me for the next 2 years. Hundreds of emails, so many of them explicit and nasty. I send them over to my Yahoo account and delete it from the sent messages inbox. Going through 40 of those emails was all I could take. Her saying how good he was, both physically and emotionally. Unlike me, how much she enjoys their time and the dirty details. Then all the pics back and forth. Her on the bed of my old apartment, They even filmed things together. I couldn't take any more, and when I saw that many of these emails were from when we just started cohabitating, I broke down. Then I got angry, just ready to explode. When she came home from her weekend trip, I asked her how it went. She said it was fabulous and she enjoyed time with her friends. I said, what about T? Did you enjoy seeing him too? She plays dumb. That pushed me over the edge and I lost it. I got up and threw the chair I was sitting on. It was just a foot away from touching her and I got into her face. I called her every last swear word in the book and she started crying, saying it meant nothing to her, and I punched a wall and nearly crushed my pinky. When she saw that, she just went right out the door and drove off. I flew into a rage, flipped the couch I bought, kicked walls, slammed tables, and once I was done, I just started crying until I passed out. For the next few weeks, I was sad, but my anger was forefront. I even yelled at my friend Quentin since I got to know her through him. Completely unfair, and I apologized to him a few days later. Word spread at work and I was given a wide berth and a little bit of eggshell walking. In my mind, the marriage was off. Then the sadness hit. It was horrible. I was crying nearly all the time and showing up to work listless and disheveled. My boss noticed and gave me some time off. After that, he let me do some of my work from home on my main computer. I wasn't shaving, and I didn't tell my family because I was too embarrassed and ashamed at what I don't know. I missed her so badly. She used to caress my head and hold me at times. I never got one call from her after she drove off that day. Then once, while I was in the lowest points of my depression, she came by. She told me she was sorry and she would do everything to make it up. That she wanted to be my wife and have my children, the whole nine. I was so desperate, then I just clung onto her and started crying. We sunk to the floor and she held me. We reconciled, and she said that we should still get married, and I agreed. She moved back in, told me that she was going to send a letter to OM&C letter looking back on it, that it was over and that she was going to restore my trust in her. She gave me access to all her accounts, destroyed the track phone in front of me, and started cleaning and rearranging the still wrecked house. This lasted about a month. I thought she was truly remorseful. Turns out she was just rug sweeping. Every time I'd bring it up, she'd say, "You know I love you and that's all that's important. The past is in the past." I had absolutely zero self-confidence or self-respect at this time, so anytime she said that, I'd drop it. 5 months from the wedding, I'd suffer panic attacks and hyperventilate. I was diagnosed during therapy. I had a year later that I developed PTSD, but I didn't know it at the time. Sometimes when something would trigger me, I'd have a fit. She would come and hold me until I calmed down, and when she did, it'd always go away faster. A few weeks and she became apathetic to them. Told me that I had to get my head on straight and to stop acting crazy. It's all in my head, that we were okay. I most certainly wasn't. After this period, she would no longer console me when I triggered and had a fit. She'd just ignore me. I'd literally be 7 feet away grasping at my chest on the ground, and she'd be texting or tapping away on her laptop. This continued for some time. I lost more than 25 pounds of weight, and due to my fits, I avoided confrontation at all costs. Shortly after, I checked her glove box every morning and night for the next 130-something days. I was going paranoid. Each morning and night I'd check, and I'd always expect something to be there too. I'd always click it open with a bated breath and quickened heartbeat. I never found anything, but it was that paranoia that helped wake me up about a month and a half from my wedding. One night I grabbed her keys as usual and checked the glove box. Nothing there. I put them back on the nightstand, keys draped over another. I woke up before she did and thought to check the glove box again. The keys on her table were exactly how I left them. So, I told myself, the keys are right there the same way you put them last night. It's impossible for her to have put anything in there, so relax and don't do it this morning. Take a guess where I was several minutes after thinking that. After getting an all clear, I was walking back to the house and the weight of everything hit me all at once. I couldn't believe I was living like this. I moved out to Georgia and made a place for myself on my own, and now I was living like this. I was in so much pain and needed help, so I finally called some family. My sister. When she heard me speak, she could instantly tell something was wrong, and I told everything. My sister met my fiancé before and was horrified after all I told her. That weekend she came up from Florida. She called ahead, so I was waiting for her on the porch. She just asked me if my fiancé was inside. I said yeah and walked past me straight into my house. I hear shouting, and then 20 seconds later my sister was dragging her out by her hair, and she was more pissed off than I ever seen her before. I thanked her for this later and told her she'd X the crap out of her if she came back. She then turned some of that anger on me and was incredulous at how I could accept this for so long. She was with me all day and wanted to tell our family, but I wanted to tell them myself, so I told her not to. I got my mother on the phone and told her the wedding was off. I told her why, and she got really silent afterwards. She then told me that that's not how she raised me and was disappointed, but that she would always be there for me. After having my first support base after all of this started, I felt a bit like myself again and knew what I had to do. I called her and told her in no uncertain terms that the wedding was off and to come back on Monday when I was away to get her crap. She started to sound teary on the phone, which I responded to by getting angry for the first time in 6 months and telling her to duck off and leave me alone forever. My sister has her own family and has to leave, so I assured her I could take it from here and would visit Florida sometime soon. After a nice hug, she left, and I went to find a good hotel that had good internet so I could do some work while waiting for her to get her crap from my house. Big mistake. Came home on Tuesday, place was gutted. Her stuff was all taken, but she took a large amount of my stuff as well. Neighbor says he saw a U-Haul parked outside my house and that she and a tall black guy. The mysterious T equals Terry. We're moving stuff out. Appliances gone, TV's gone, sound system gone, my main PC gone, PS3. 360, 30 to 50 games all gone. Even took the CD player she bought me one Christmas out of my car and a note saying she's keeping the wedding ring and selling it since I'm abandoning her. Seeing this, I fell into depression again and was lonelier than ever. I probably would have given up the house if it wasn't for the $40K my parents gave me that helped pay for it. What few friends I had left, I isolated myself from them. I was still going to work but barely said a word. I did little more than wake up, work, replace stuff she stole from me, and sleep for the next 10 months or so. It all pasted in a haze. In this time, I also learned from friends I hadn't isolated yet that she pawned the several thousands of dollar wedding ring I gave her, sold the rest of my crap, and was living with T in his apartment. My sister knew something wasn't right, especially when I never came down to Florida like I said I would. But she was pregnant with her second child and prepping for it, so couldn't manage time to come down until after the new child was settled in. Hence 10 months of haze. I was in pretty much the same state I was in when she left nearly a year ago. That's when she told me to go on vacation and come to Florida. Nothing better to do, so I did. Being around family really helped get me back to being me again. And at my sister's baby shower I met my current GF. She was a friend of my sister and drove in from Alabama. We had a good talk, but I was in no way ready to step back in the field again. Her interest in me did more for my ego and confidence than anything else though. When I went back to Georgia, I seriously got back on my feet, let my boss know I was back, and started reconnecting with friends. When my future GF moved out to Georgia to get work as a nurse, I showed her around and we got together shortly after. Although she won't admit it, I think my sister played Cupid. Not that I blame her though. I never knew how good a relationship could be when your partner truly loves you. I didn't tell her my rough past first, I did within the year. But at first, she just knew I had a bad break, so she'd chuckle when I'd be in awe at the little things she would do, like buy me lunch on her way home or cook dinner for us 2 days in a row. Fast forward nearly 2.5 years to today. We are still together and have a beautiful 17-month-old son. Life is good, and I have not had a fit in more than a year. Until a few days ago. Here's the problem. My GF's mother was dying to see her grandchild, and we agreed to come to Alabama to visit for several days. That was the plan, at least until I got swamped in work due to one of my coworkers unceremoniously quitting with no warning. I think my boss has been grooming me for a promo and with a family to provide for now. I didn't want him to think I was unreliable, especially after he put up with all my crap years ago. So, she and my son left on Friday and returned on Tuesday. Problem is, on Monday someone knocked on my door while I was nursing a beer and doing some work. My ex-fiancée. I froze emotionally. I couldn't think. I could barely breathe. She asked to come in and I actually let her in the home of my family, but I didn't do anything. She said the place looked much better and was acting like nothing was different between us. This went on for a few minutes before she left and said she'd be around. I couldn't believe it happened. I had a fit at the time for the first time in more than a year. I know that now, but I was scared. I should have been able to tell this woman off. But I was panicking. What is wrong with me? I see how that triggered me so badly now. Ever since I had my son, the thought of her never once passed my mind for more than half a second, and only rarely. And now to just pop up out of nowhere nearly 3 years later. She looked exactly the same as she did in the past. Oh yeah, my GF isn't my fiancé yet. I want to change that, but I've still been having some issues coming to make that commitment. She's been completely understandable, but it's not fair to her. I feel horrible that I let my ex into our home. I'm going to tell my GF what happened after she gets off her shift tonight. So, I told my GF when she got back. She was really pissed, but not at me, at my ex-fiancé. She knows there's no chance of me getting with her. In the beginning of our relationship I was still having triggering occasionally, so she knows just how much poison she is. She's just worried about me doing it again with her or our son in the house. I don't have her phone number anymore. After she left, I pretty much destroyed every trace of her in my life and changed email accounts. I forgot what hers used to be, so no idea how to get an NC and stay away letter to her. She also told me that I still have a lot of baggage if the sight of her completely paralyzed me like it did, so we are considering me going to IC. After that we just cozy up with our son and she went to bed an hour ago. I'm just so glad she understands where I am right now. I'd hate for her to even think I'd ever go back to vile woman. I want to handle this without them ever meeting though. She shouldn't have to deal with her too. Another encounter. So, I found out what she meant by she'd be around. I've been going to the same church. I can't believe she'd show up there while I'm with my family. My GF was so pissed and it really put a pall on our weekend. I myself was furious. I'm glad I was. I felt a bit anxious at first, but then my rage swam to the surface and I didn't freeze at all. I'm not the most religious man alive, but she knew I'd never do anything rash in public. At church no less. I wouldn't tolerate my GF having to be put in that situation, so we left early. I sent them to the car, went outside, and she came out after me. I tell her to go away and stop following me. She says she's sorry about the way things ended, and that maybe we could reconcile in the future. The duck. Did she just not see my GF and son? I was incredulous at this, and then she tells me that before I dumped her. I dump her. Really? She got pregnant by me. She tells me she miscarried and was miserable for more than a year. That she left OM and moved back in with her parents. She's telling me how the only time she really was happy was when she was with me and that she knows she's being selfish. But she wants me to take her back, after 3 ducking years. I couldn't believe it. I also couldn't believe I sat there and listened to that pity party. I tell her what we had is dead, never coming back, and that I already have the woman I truly love and have started a family with. I wasn't going to say she's so much better than you, but was about to say more and then starts crying and causing a damn scene, so I just got the hell out of there. This time my GF was pissed at me, mostly because I don't want her to confront her. I think I'm going to need a restraining order. I cannot have this woman near my family. There has to be a quick way to cut this off. Ideas. I've decided I'm going to finish this today. I know I can send a NC letter since I know where she lives now. I also know I can get a restraining order. But I know she won't abide by either one. She's always been pretty high-strung, but I've never seen her half as manic as she is now. She'll go back on either one of them and then I'll have more drama for me and GF to deal with, and she's already told me how much this situation is frustrating her. She wanted to and still wants to confront, but I'm not budging on this. I don't want her coming anywhere near my family under any circumstance. I've already notified the local police about the situation, so if this doesn't work then I'm going the whole 9 yards in that direction. I can't have this anymore. It's my fault this is happening for letting it come to this, so I'm going to confront her at her home where she can't run from me. The only way to get through to her in the past has been to hammer it into her repeatedly, keeping a VAR with me as well. I'm going to try to go in emotionless. She isn't responding to my rage. Just be upfront and matter of fact about it while being firm all the time. Going there in about 2 hours. Wish me luck. I got to the conclusion yesterday. It was something to say the least. Kind of been avoiding updating cause, was still sorting this through my head. Here it is. I told my GF where I was going, and this time she really understood what I'm going for by handling this myself. Really early boost, and after spending time with my family I had the perfect state of mind. I got her parents' home phone number in a phone book lying around. Called it up and her mother answered. I asked her to put it on the phone, and when she finally got on, I told her I was 15 minutes away and we needed to have a talk about me and the two of us. She says okay, so I hang up without saying anything or saying bye. About 15 to 20 minutes pass and I get there. Make sure my VAR is in my side pocket before I go to the front door. After knocking a bit, she greeted me with a smile and I stepped in. We go to the living room, and from the scene in there, I knew exactly what was going to happen after that. From what I inferred, with the way she was dressed and styled up and was beaming at me while holding her mother's hand, I can tell she fully expected me to say I loved her and take her back or something. How her deluded mind came to this conclusion I have no idea, and I honestly didn't care. I knew what I needed to say since I woke up that morning. So, with her parents sitting there, I told her yes. We were very close to being married, and several years ago I did love her and that we did have something good, but she completely ruined and caused us to break. I told her in no uncertain terms that we're truly finished, that there is no chance of me ever taking her back at all. Her smile was gone near instantly and she starts getting a bit teary about always considering herself my wife and truly sorry. And I cut her off there. I say, at this point, I didn't believe one word of that, and even if I did, it still wouldn't change the fact that I don't love you anymore and still have not forgiven the way you sorely disrespected and abused my trust. After our break I moved on with my life, and I suggest you do as well. I've already met another woman I intend to marry someday and we've already begun to create a family. But even if I was single, I still wouldn't take you back under any circumstance. And that's when she starts wailing, loud, very very loud and long. I thought about raising up and just walking out, but something in me was saying weather the storm and make sure she gets it, cause I'm not going through this crap again. So, after all this and her screams and cries start to die off a bit, her father, who's been sitting there like a statue, previously sneering when I came in, scowling after I spoke, this whole time gets the idea to tear into me. This old guy starts shouting about how because I proposed I should have just married their girl problems and all and worked through it, that I was a coward for running away. He tells me that because of the whole affair and split 3 years ago most of her friends abandoned her and she's been having emotional problems. And that if I was a real man, I would have stuck it out or at least be taking her back now to own up to my mistakes. My mistakes? That's when I got pissed. I've never liked him. Very judgmental and close-minded and greedy as hell. So, I tell him maybe if he taught his daughter how to be a responsible adult, she wouldn't have ruined her life and that any blame for that lies at her feet. I noticed she quieted down between all the shouting, so I look at her in the eye and tell her remember what I said because I mean it with every fiber in my being. We are done, never come near me again. For any reason. That kind of hit her differently because then she starts looking down at her lap saying she'd hurt herself or maybe kill herself if I hated her and wouldn't give her chance at a happy life with me. I then say I don't hate you, I really don't, but I don't care about you in the slightest. Saying that isn't going to change my mind either. If you want to hurt yourself, do whatever, but know that we're done. That's when I walk out and drive off. I was still angry and on edge while driving, so I pulled into a Walmart and got some iced teas and stuff for the house. It felt so surreal, after all, that I'm in a Walmart doing small groceries. I get back home, put the stuff on the counter and tell my GF about everything. I was in small funk about what I said at the end about her being free to hurt herself in retrospect. I really don't care for her, but I wouldn't want her in a hospital or anything. But she told me not to worry because that woman isn't our problem, that her parents will have to handle that. I agree. So next update. Things have been going very well with me and my GF and we have been doing our thing since. I've been thinking long and hard about proposing to her in the last few days, but I'll post about that some other time. A few hours ago, my ex-mother-in-law called me. I know I should just cut off connection with all of them, but her mother isn't a bad person. She was nowhere near a support base after my emotionally crippling D-Day. But she would call to check up on me and ex-fiancé every now and then and talk to me for a bit afterwards. She understands the current situation, just that she's far too timid and non-confrontational to ever say so to anyone other than me in private. So, during the call, and she was asking me if things were truly done between her and her daughter. I did an about face. At first I was kind of pissed, thinking, do these people think I'm desperate or something? That I'd actually take back their messed up daughter. But I cooled it down and asked why she's saying this. She tells me that it's because she's worried for her daughter and started crying. She then told me that my ex swallowed a lot of meds and is in the hospital on X-Watch. The X-Watch comment kind of stuck out, so I asked her when all this happened and she said it happened yesterday. But she didn't want to call me in front of her husband, so she waited till today. I asked for more details before I stopped myself and she said her husband was going to use the bathroom and found it locked. After he pushed the door off, the hinges did. They find her in the tub with an empty pill bottle. I was a mix of emotions, but I still told her I understood why she would call me in this situation. Has no one to talk to really. But that she shouldn't call me about her daughter anymore. She sounded really sad at that and I admit I felt kind of bad, mostly since she's going to be dealing with that kind of mess and all she can talk to is her asshole husband. Said byes and hung up, but I don't know, man, I couldn't stop thinking about it for a while. Like when she said she'd hurt herself, I'd never seen her so desolate before. I've seen anger, fury, and sadness, but that was the first time she was like that. In front of me anyways. It's not my problem. I know that, but I was having a bad feeling ever since I walked out of her parents' house that day, but I kept telling myself she was just trying to manipulate me and to ignore it. Now though, I feel like I could have prevented it if I said something instead of just walking off. I haven't told my GF yet since she just got off work at the time and I didn't want to upset her. I really don't know what to do right now. I sure as hell don't want to visit her, but I also don't think it's right to leave her mother like that. After some of the small kindnesses she showed me, never. If I keep this thread to her life alive, my GF is going to have enough of it one day and I can't bear the thought of that. I don't know why I'm being so stupid, but it's all right here and my family is all that matters. I finally moved on my life. I refuse to go back. I'm going to call her mother and tell her I can't have her or her daughter anywhere near my life anymore. And then I'm going to delete her number. I'm done with all of them forever. Also, I think I still have a few problems with commitment, but I know that I want to propose to my GF. Is it too early to go ring hunting, or should I get some therapy first? I wasn't confused when I saw her, not one bit. I had a panic attack when I saw her, but I wasn't confused. You're right, she isn't part of my life and I know that and have known ever since I disconnected the last vestige back to her. Trust me on this, I don't got to tell myself anything. I know I'm done with that woman. With how much she disrespected and hurt me while and after our relationship, my self-respect alone would ensure I never got back with her. My family and love for them being the greater reasons. The whole situation was horrible, but I think what doesn't kill you makes you stronger applies here. I'm a better me now than I was then because I respect and love myself completely. I don't need to validate my existence with a woman like I was with my ex when I look back in hindsight. How I was thinking how good a man I must be because I had her. I used to think a lot of things before I became a BS. I used to think how pathetic a man must be if he couldn't satisfy and keep his woman under control. How naive I was. That was one of the biggest reasons I sought no help or support after D-Day. Was too embarrassed. When someone moves on, I don't think you get complete indifference. I mean, who they could look back at the years of being treated so poorly and putting up with it and be indifferent. I know I can't. Most of what I feel is shame at how I was living like that. That's just my opinion as a BS. Sure, thinking about terrible people and terrible things like the betrayal and even physical abuse hurts for some people. But I don't think being rueful means any of us haven't moved on completely. Weeks later. So, I proposed to my GF a week ago. She said no. I was shell-shocked to say the least. I figured after cutting away all the dead flesh of my previous incredibly toxic relationship, I was ready for the next chapter in my life. I went out, got the perfect ring, and when I got on one knee, she said she couldn't say yes at that time. I wanted to cry because I have a son with this woman. But first I asked her why, and she said after all that happened with my ex-fiancé, she said she's not sure I fully healed from it. That I'm proposing to her as a way to prove I'm over my ex instead of wanting to spend my life with her, but that's extremely untrue. She told me she truly loves me and wants to marry me and started crying, and so did I, but said she just couldn't make that commitment if any part of her doubted the validity of my commitment to her. Paraphrased obviously, real words too emotional and private. I kept her out of handling my ex-fiancé trying to insert herself back into my life, so I think that must be why she doesn't know how over it is. She is the love of my life, and I want to spend my life with her and have more children. I realize that now after I quit bull crap about my issues. How can I get her to realize that I've truly coped with the affair of my ex? I know I'm over it and definitely over my ex. She was just readmitted again for a psych evaluation in the hospital. Some friends told me, and then I told them not to tell me about her anymore. And honestly, I don't give a crap and have no plan to call or visit or anything. For the past week we've been going by semi-normally, but it's like there's a wall between us, and I'm terrified to address it and doubly terrified to bring up marriage again because I don't know what I'll do if I get shot down twice. I proposed to my then GF and she agreed. Wedding was slated 9 months later. 6 months from the wedding I found out she's been having an affair for around 1.5 years before and after proposal, and was making disparaging comments about me to the OM for 4.5 months. My head was in the sand. I never exposed. Suffering frequent panic attacks caused by an apathetic so. And I was a month or so away from marrying her. I told my sister and finally had some emotional support and called off wedding, broke up, and told my family. I leave the house I just bought for a few days and tell her to take her things and leave. I came back and turns out she took most everything, including most of my stuff, so house empty, and fell into deep depression for about a year. After depression, got back on my feet, met my GF and fell in love. We have a son. Little less than a month ago my ex-fiancée tried to insert herself back into my life. Went through a lot of drama. She threatened to X herself. I still told her she was truly out of my life for good. She swallows a bottle of X and locks herself in the bathroom. Been in and out of the hospital since, but I don't really care. GF was by my side through all of this. I kind of understand that she needs time before she knows I'm done with her, but I am completely. I know this 100%. I thought by doing this thing would be even better between us. But now it's stalled. It really hurts right now, and it's hard to think. But I don't know what I can do to make her feel sure about our relationship. Comments. It looks like your GF is quite level-headed, loves you and wants to be with you. That means a lot. You may think you are ready for marriage, but it is fair for her to have her doubts. Don't give up on her just for this. Someone suggested putting your ring on a necklace for the time being and giving it to her. You should consider that. If she accepts, you will have further validation of what everyone is saying. Don't give up on her. Deal with the disappointment for now. And most importantly, don't put up any walls now. Have that mature conversation that is needed. Honestly, I think it's really your ego which is finding it hard to deal with the disappointment. I won't even call it a rejection. If you can recognize that, you will be better off for it, both for you and for her. Final ending coming today as well, and it's a great ending. I'll finish it up very quick.